is a large diversity of living organisms on the earth. All organisms differ in their form and structure. The plants and animals are main living organisms. Some plants are small, still others are large. Some animals exist on land, some others live in water. Some plants are grown in pots, some are large trees. Before death, the plants and animals try to continue their species. The process by which the species is continued is called reproduction. Reproduction is an important characteristic feature of living organisms. All organ systems, except the reproductive systems, help the organism to remain alive under different conditions of environment. All organisms grow, and after a definite period of life, they perish. The organisms produce the individuals like themselves. Young ones replace the old and dying ones. These young ones feed, grow, and reproduce again. Reproduction also helps in increasing the population of the species.
Sexual reproduction
Requires two parents and they make a non-identical offspring. These parents, each of their body cells has a nucleus which contains 100% of the DNA, but in their testes and in their ovaries and their gametes, they create these things called sex cells. And each sex cell only contains 50% of the DNA needed in a body cell, wherein cells make an offspring, and these sex cells are called the sperm and the egg. And when they come together, when the sperm penetrates the egg, or when the union of the male and female sex cells come together, that is called fertilization. Now let's talk about cell division mitosis. What happens once the DNA combines, like 100% of it? Well, the cell begins to divide, and that one parent cell divides into two or more daughter cells. Offspring. An offspring is that one cell that has cells, tissues, organs, and organ system. It has 50% of DNA from its mother and its father. This offspring has a random mix of genes that make it slightly different from its brother, sister, mother, and father. Reproduction acts as a vehicle of organic evolution by transmitting advantageous variations to the offspring. In unicellular organisms, which use asexual reproduction, can do so very rapidly, simply by dividing into two equal halves. This is called binary fission. It is essentially cell division. Plants can also reproduce through asexual reproduction. This type of reproduction is called vegetation propagation. Budding is when a tiny part of the original organism grows into a separate organism. Fragmentation is another form of asexual reproduction. The organism is split into fragments or pieces. The pieces can each grow and become a separate organism. Cell division, mitosis. In multicellular organisms, it is responsible for growth and repair. In unicellular organisms, it is responsible for reproduction. Sexual reproduction requires two parents who donate genes to the young, resulting in offspring with a mix of inherited genes. In asexual reproduction, only one parent is needed, resulting in offspring that are genetically identical to the parent. The main advantage of sexual reproduction is genetic variation. The offspring has mix of inherited genes. This means that different offspring has different traits, strengths, and weaknesses. This is good for the survival of the species. A sexual reproduction is very quick. There is no energy wasted on courtship or mating. It takes a lot of energy to find a mate, then to mate, and then to develop and have the baby. There is no genetic variety unless a genetic mutation occurs. Animals and plants. Unicellular organisms like bacteria, amoeba, and yeast. Some multicellular organisms like starfish, hydra, some plants and worms. Sexually produced offspring are genetically A. Identical to the parent, B. Different from the parent, C. Different from each other, or D. Formed by two parents. The answer is A. Identical to the parent, which process gives rise to a variety of traits within a species. A. Sexual reproduction, B. Dynamic equilibrium, C. Cellular respiration, or D. Internal regulation. In a one-celled organism, cell division is responsible for A. Growth and maintenance, B. Sexual reproduction, C. Asexual reproduction, or D. Production of sex cells. The answer is A. Growth and maintenance. Base your answers to questions 4 through 6 on the diagram below and on your knowledge of science. The diagram shows the result of sexual reproduction. Identify the two sex cells that are necessary for sexual reproduction. In each of the offspring, what percentage of the genetic material comes from the male parent? 50%. Fertilization is the epic story of a single sperm facing incredible odds to unite with an egg and form a new human life. It is the story of all of us. During sexual intercourse, about 300 million sperm enter the vagina. Soon afterward, millions of them will either flow out of the vagina or die in its acidic environment. However, many survive because of the protective elements provided in the fluid surrounding them. Next, the sperm must pass through the cervix, an opening into the uterus. Usually, it remains tightly closed, but here, the cervix is open for a few days while the human ovulates. The sperm swim through the cervical mucus, which has thinned to a more watery consistency for easier passage. Once inside the cervix, the sperm continues swimming toward the uterus, though millions will die trying to make it through the mucus. Some sperm remain behind, caught in the folds of the cervix, but they may later continue the journey as a backup to the first group. Inside the uterus, muscular uterine contractions assist the sperm on their journey toward the egg. However, resident cells from the human's immune system, mistaking the sperm for foreign invaders, destroy thousands more. Next, half the sperm head for the empty fallopian tube, while the other half swim toward the tube containing the unfertilized egg. Now, only a few thousand remain. Inside the fallopian tube, tiny cilia push the egg toward the uterus. To continue, the sperm must surge against this motion to reach the egg. Some sperm get trapped in the cilia and die. During this part of the journey, chemicals in the reproductive tract cause the membranes covering the heads of the sperm to change. As a result, the sperm become hyperactive, swimming harder and faster toward their destination. At long last, the sperm reach the egg. Only a few dozen of the original 300 million sperm remain. The egg is covered with a layer of cells called the corona radiata. The sperm must push through this layer to reach the outer layer of the egg, the zona pellucida. When sperm reach the zona pellucida, they attach to specialized sperm receptors on the surface, which triggers their acrosomes to release digestive enzymes, enabling the sperm to burrow into the layer. After a perilous journey and against incredible odds, a single sperm attaches to the egg cell membrane. Within a few minutes, their outer membranes fuse, and the egg pulls the sperm inside. This event causes changes in the egg membrane that prevent other sperm from attaching to it. Next, the egg releases chemicals that push other sperm away from the egg and create an impenetrable fertilization membrane. As the reaction spreads outward, the zona pellucida hardens, trapping any sperm unlucky enough to be caught inside. Outside the egg, sperm are no longer able to attach to the zona pellucida. Meanwhile, inside the egg, the tightly packed male genetic material spreads out. A new membrane forms around the genetic material, creating the male pronucleus. Inside, the genetic material reforms into 23 chromosomes. The female genetic material, awakened by the fusion of the sperm with the egg, finishes dividing, resulting in the female pronucleus, which also contains 23 chromosomes. As the male and female pronuclei form, spider-like web threads called microtubules pull them toward each other. The two sets of chromosomes join together, completing the process of fertilization. At this moment, a genetic code arises, instantly determining gender, hair color, eye color, and hundreds of other characteristics. This new single cell, the zygote, is the beginning of a new human being. And now, the cilia in the fallopian tube gently sweep the zygote toward the uterus, where he or she will implant in the rich uterine lining, growing and maturing for the next 9 months until ready for birth.